Welcome to Political Hitman on Israel News Talk Radio. Want to connect with Howie? Email him at howie@israelnewstalkradio.com. Now here's your host, Howie Silberger.
I'm Howie Silberger. This is Political Hitman here on Israel News Talk Radio. Thank you so much for joining me, and we have a lot to talk about. We just went through the holiday of Passover, and the holiday of Passover celebrates the Jewish exodus from slavery in Egypt 2,000 years ago, more than 2,000 years ago. And while I sat and I thought about slavery, and I thought about Jewish freedom and what that means, I realized that Jews are not free. We still aren't free. While Jews living in the diaspora outside of Israel are under constant threat, under constant attack. Jewish synagogues are being bombed. Jewish synagogues are being attacked. Jewish children are being shot at. Jews are being beaten in the streets in certain cities and countries of the world. And the world body stands by and does nothing. Now, things aren't much better in Israel. The Jews of Israel are living under the constant threat of missile attacks. Now, this is not something new for Jews of Israel. Jews in southern Israel lived through missile attacks for over 2 decades with not one condemnation, not one insistence that Hamas stop launching nuclear bombs into civilian populations, not one accusation of war crimes, not one accusation of genocide, not one accusation of anything. Just missiles landing on the heads of Jewish men, women, and children, innocent civilians trying to live their lives. And the world turned a blind eye to it. When Israel decided to defend themselves after October 7th, after a genocidal attack by a genocidal enemy who avowed genocide, the enemy says right there in writing, in black and white, they say, we want to wipe Israel off the map and we want to kill every Jew living within its borders. And in addition to that, we want to kill every Jew living outside of its borders. When that enemy attacked Israel on October 7th, 2003, the world condemned Israel for reacting, for defending itself, for going after these genocidal maniacs and killing them and destroying their infrastructure. Israel was the villain. Somehow the world found that it's okay. It's okay if it's taking Jewish lives. It's okay to kill 1,500 people. It's okay to terrorize a nation. That's fine, as long as they're Jews. But if you go in and you attack terrorists and you die, you kill soldiers because you're being so careful to protect civilians, your soldiers are dying to retaliate, to take out the enemy that just came and tried to murder you, or murdered some of you, tried to come and destroy you. The world condemns that as a war crime, as genocide. Man, I wish people would look up the words that they use. I wish people would understand the vocabulary that they use. In any case, what we learned is that Jewish life means nothing. Iran is launching bombs into Israeli civilian populations. The world says nothing. But Israel bombing Iranian military targets is attempted genocide. It's ethnic cleansing. It's a war crime. Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, is a war criminal, should be arrested anywhere he goes. Condemnation, right, left, center. Everybody condemns Israel. Israel is the world's punching bag today. It's amazing. And the right-wing pundits, the people, the influencers, as they call themselves, the ones who speak, the famous ones, they've all turned against Israel too. Take a guy like Tucker Carlson, who suddenly became the most anti-Israel guy out there, the loudest voice opposing Israel. Now, why, you may ask, are they attacking Israel? What possible purpose could it serve them to attack Israel? How do they gain from this? Attacking the only democratic country in the Middle East. Gays for Palestine. Queers for Palestine. That's a great oxymoronic, and I'll emphasize the word moronic, organization. People who are standing up for people who are committing genocide against the communities that they represent. It is totally ridiculously stupid what's going on in North America and around the world, but it's also extremely dangerous. And we're living in a time where it's extremely dangerous for Jews to be living anywhere in the world. I've been seeing constant posts, one after another, on social media and all the different social medias. Jews in different cities and different towns in different countries asking, where could I go to be safe? A bomb blew up near my house. A swastika was daubed on a door near my apartment. My synagogue had its windows broken and was firebombed. Where could I go to be safe? And when you answer Israel is a nice place to go to be safe, they say it's not even safe there. And it's hard to argue the point that it is. Although the majority of Israelis are living their lives freely and don't feel that they're under any kind of oppression. The oppression does exist, at least in Western media, the way the Western media depicts what's going on in the Middle East, the way the airlines depict what's going on in the Middle East. Jews across the world are scared. And there is no reason for them to be scared. But they are. They are scared because this rise of anti-Jewism around the world, this virtual hate, this vera internal hatred that we see constantly over and over everywhere. It didn't come from nowhere. It's fascinating to me. It's absolutely mind-blowingly fascinating to me that there were people who make the argument that when the Holocaust ended, when World War II ended, and Hitler killed himself in his bunker when he realized he was going to lose the war, he killed himself, coward. When he killed himself in his bunker, everyone said Nazism was over. But it wasn't really over. Think about it for a second. The Nazis managed to convince an entire continent that Jews were subhuman and deserved to be exterminated in extermination camps. They convinced an entire continent that it's okay if in your backyard there's a crematoria burning Jewish bodies because they're not really people. They convinced an entire continent to turn their neighbors, their friends, their bosses, and their employees into a murder squad that walked around and shot people because of their religion. Do you think that kind of hatred just disappears? Do you think it just vanishes into the ether because the leader of the movement killed himself? When you have a child who's in the Hitler Youth Program, and is in the Hitler Youth Program for 5 years being indoctrinated with this philosophy that Jews are subhuman, do you really believe that that child suddenly flips a switch and that ideology is gone? Do you believe that parents who raise their children to believe that Jews are subhuman, the children who are raised to believe that, suddenly that belief disappears, that they don't believe it anymore, that they realize the fallacy of their ways and they change their heart? It may work in movies, it really doesn't work in real life. So the underlying tension, the underlying hatred is still there and has been there since the end of World War II, at least in Europe. Now, in the Americas, it wasn't much better. The American Nazi Party, led by Henry Ford, had thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of members. There were rallies at Madison Square Garden supporting the Nazis. So you're telling me that the hatred that was bred in the United States and in Canada famously said that no Jews were too many Jews to take in when the Holocaust started. You went to the Evian conference where Germany was trying to upload their Jews to other countries, just offload them somewhere. And Canada's answer was, one is too many. So do you think Canadian Jews feel good and feel safe in their country? This kind of hatred existed, not from yesterday, not from 2 days ago. But it was an underlying hatred. It was in the background. It wasn't in the foreground. But it always jumps to the foreground anytime Israel gets involved in any war, anytime Israel defends itself, anytime Jews show that they are strong. This hatred jumps up and suddenly reappears in the minds and the hearts of the haters. When Jews are weak and sitting back and prostrate themselves to whoever, then suddenly the Jew haters disappear. They find other things to hate. They go and they lynch black people. They go and they attack immigrants. But when Jews start showing that they're strong anywhere in the world, when Jews stand up for themselves and say, we're not going to be pushed around anymore, when the Jewish army becomes the strongest army in the region, suddenly that country, that people, that civilization that calls themselves Jewish, suddenly they become the enemy. They become the threat. Now, if you ever wondered why Jews become the threat whenever they seem to be strong, whenever they stand up for themselves, whenever they are righteously strong and righteously good, why are they the threat? The answer to me is quite simple. Because they hold the truth. They hold the Word of God. And because they hold the Word of God, people feel threatened by them. People feel that God is protecting them. And because people feel that God is protecting the Jews, there's a certain kind of jealousy. And I think that's where Jew hatred stems from anyway. It's the jealousy that the Jews had the covenant with God. And every time somebody else tried to claim that they had the covenant with God, the Jews never let go. The Jews never said, yeah, Christianity, they claim to have a new testament with God, a new covenant with God, a new deal with God. But the Jews didn't accept it. When the Quran came around and Muhammad said, hey, I have a new deal with God, it supersedes the Jewish deal. The Jews said, okay, you believe in whatever you want, but we will continue believing in what we do. And I think that was the threat, and I think that's what is the root of the problem. But then you have to believe that the problem in the Middle East is not a land problem, it is a religious problem. And a religious problem could be solved has to be solved. It can't be solved in the same way you solve a land problem. It must be solved in a different way. And the people who tried to point this out in the past, the people who tried to say, hey, wait a second, take a look. All these peace deals, all these land deals, all these offers were all turned down. They all fell apart. And the only thing the only claim that seems to be constant throughout the decades and decades and decades of Jews and Arabs fighting is the Jewish people have a religious claim to the land, and the Arab people claim that they have a religious claim to the land too. Whose religious claim is stronger and who actually rightfully owns the land historically through religion is the question that's being asked, and that's the question that's always being asked. So all these peace deals, all these land for peace deals, they don't really work. Take a look. For years and years and years, decades, the world was yelling at Israel, you must have a Palestinian state. We believe in a two-state solution. We still hear it today for some insane, idiotic, moronic reason. People are still trying to push a two-state solution. But Hamas proved that a two-state solution doesn't work. In 2006, Israel pulled every man, woman, child, every body, every fire hydrant, every building out of Gaza. They made Gaza Judenrein. If Israel did that with the Arabs, Rabbi Kahana suggested that years ago, if Israel would have done that with the Arabs, they would have been called ethnic cleansing. But it's okay when the Jews have to leave. It's okay to throw the Jews off the land. It's okay to have land that is Jew-free. That's fine. But if the Jews did that and said, hey, we want our Jewish land, you have all your Islamic land, we want all our Jewish land. If the Jews did that, they'd be accused of ethnic cleansing. It'd be a war crime. How could you throw people out of their homes? But when Israel did it in 2006 and yanked every man, woman, and child out of their homes, dug up every body, pulled out every fire hydrant, every pipe, every trace that a Jew ever lived in Gaza, and moved it into Israel, into behind the border of Gaza, and said, here is your Palestinian state. You have 1.5 million people there. Have fun. It's your state. What did the people of Gaza do? What did the government of Gaza do, which at the time was Hamas? Democratically elected, by the way. What did they do? The next day, one day later, they started launching missiles indiscriminately into civilian populations in Israel. One day later. Whoa, what? What are you saying? Are you saying that the Israelis pulled back and said, we want to live in peace? They even left greenhouses and infrastructure, so that there could be industry in the land. What did Hamas do? They burned it all down. And they launched missiles into southern Israel. And not one missile, not two missiles, barrages, tens of thousands of missiles, landing on the heads of innocent men, women, and children. In fact, men, women, and children who were promoting open borders and promoting the cooperation between Israel and the Arabs. That wasn't good enough. And the state was not good enough for them. Because as long as Israel existed, they had to keep fighting. It has nothing to do with land. They could take as much land as they want. They are going to continue fighting until Israel is eradicated. And there's a reason for that. It's not out of nowhere. There's a reason for it. The Quran teaches that if a land was ever controlled by an Islamic caliphate, if Islamic rulers ever ruled a land, that land is Islamic forever, and no other country could ever exist on that land. Since the Middle East was part of the Ottoman Empire, which was an Islamic caliphate, radical Islam believes that Israel is Islamic land and can never be ruled by anyone except for an Islamic leader. And if it is ruled by someone who's not an Islamic leader, Islam's solution to that is annihilation, murder, destruction. Which is why Hamas wrote into their charter that Israel must be destroyed. Which is why the so-called Palestinians walked away from so many deals. Which is why peace deals with Muslim attackers, terrorists, never work. Which is why ceasefires never work. Because the goal isn't peace. The goal isn't living side by side in harmony, as much as the lefties wish it were. The goal is the complete and utter annihilation of the state of Israel and of the people of Israel. This is the goal. This is the only goal. And they don't lose their vision. They don't get distracted. This is what their Quran tells them to do. This is what they are going to do. Now, world leaders don't want to accept this. I don't even think Israeli leaders really want to accept this. Nobody wants to face the fact that this is a religious war. Because if you face the fact that it's a religious war, you have to realize at that point that the only way to solve a religious war is one side has to kill the other. The Arabs got to that solution, by the way, in 1948, when 5 Arab countries decided to attack the small state of Israel and destroy it. They understood that concept when they created the BDS movement, trying to destroy Israel from the inside out. They understood that movement when they had terrorists living in Israel, committing terror attacks within the state of Israel. They understood that you could destroy a country from within, economically, through terrorism, through destruction, through assassinations. They understood this. Instinctively, they knew that this is what they had to do. Because it wasn't about land. They couldn't care less about Jerusalem. They couldn't care less about any of the land in Israel. If it was about land, if it was about displaced people, if it was about refugees, one of the 30 Arab countries surrounding Israel would have taken in all the refugees years ago. They would have just given them land and forgot about it. When Egypt took back the Sinai Peninsula, when Israel gave it back, and once again, ripped all the Jews who were living in the Sinai out of the Sinai to give the Sinai to Egypt, because heaven forbid a Jew should live on land outside the state of Israel somewhere in the Middle East. That's not allowed. But that's okay because it's only Jews. That's not ethnic cleansing at all. No, not even a little bit. So the hypocrisy continues, where the Israelis are held to one standard and the rest of the world is held to another standard. It's infuriating that Israelis, that Jews are not being treated like humans, being treated like animals again. We're being considered like animals. Nobody thinks twice about slaughtering a cow or slaughtering a chicken. And nobody thinks twice about slaughtering a Jew. Now, I know that sounds harsh, and I know that a lot of people don't like hearing talk like this. And I understand that not everyone thinks that way. But when you think about the hundreds of thousands of people who went out marching to free Palestine and to fight against the terrorist regime of Israel and the genocidal attack on the poor Gazan children. And you think how many people in Europe and how many people in North America and how many people around the world marched in Australia, how many people marched. And you think that you go shopping in these same towns, if you live in those towns, you live in the diaspora, you go shopping in the same supermarkets as these people and you stand in line with them and you drive down the same highways with them. If a charismatic leader suddenly rose up in any of these countries and was able to sell the idea that Jews were subhuman again, because we don't teach history anymore, how many people would buy into that? I don't think it would be too hard to sell. And then once it's sold, how long till the second genocide of Jews begins? How long till Holocaust Part 2? It's a scary proposition when you think about it. It's a very scary thought. And the reason it won't happen is because the state of Israel exists. Because the Jews have an army to protect them. So if it starts up somewhere and Israel sees and the world sees that this is becoming a very dangerous situation, and don't think for a second, don't even think for half a second, that if a charismatic leader got up and said, let's kill the Jews, that anybody else in the world aside from Israel will step up and save the Jews. Nobody will. Nobody did in the 1940s. Nobody will do in the 2000s. Nobody will do in the 2020s. Nobody will do in 2030, and nobody will step up in 2050. It's just not going to happen. So as long as Israel exists, at least there's something out there that could try to protect the Jewish people. And that's why they want to destroy Israel. It's one of the reasons. Because if they destroy Israel, they could destroy the Jews everywhere. It's a sad, sad case. When you think about it, it's very sad. When you dissect it and you analyze it, you wonder how the world has gotten to this point. Less than 100 years after the attempted annihilation, the attempted genocide of the Jewish people, the Jews are back in the same situation they were in 1939. It's extremely scary. It's going to happen in one country or another. Wait, it's going to happen. That there will be segregation of the Jews. That Jews won't be allowed to go to certain places and be part of certain things. That Jews won't be allowed to be in certain professions. This is history repeating itself. And so we know how this plays out. And it's going to happen within the next couple of years. We're going to see that. And we'll see a charismatic leader get up, and I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't shock me if there was another attempted genocide of the Jewish people. That wouldn't shock me at all. Not with the way the world is going today. Now, that is a scary statement. I agree. It is a horrifically scary statement. Not a statement I make lightly and not a statement I make happily. But I believe it's the truth. I believe that we are heading in that direction, that we have a serious problem. So where do we go from here? How do we solve this problem? Supporting the state of Israel isn't really the solution. Fighting the enemy, works for a little bit of time, but it's not really the solution either. There's a power in numbers. And the more Jews that move to Israel makes the country stronger, that's for sure. The more Jews that move to Israel stop the natural growth of the Arab population in a democratic country so that they could take over the country. The more Jews that live there, the less chance of that happening is. And Jews have to stop being scared. We have to start being not scared. We have to start being smart and start being tough and start standing up for ourselves and stop telling people who get up and talk and scream and yell and try to rile up the population to defend themselves. Stop calling them radicals and stop throwing them out of the community and stop ostracizing them. We have to start understanding that a tough Jew is what's needed today. That we can't sit back idly by. We can't do backdoor deals. We can't work in the shadows anymore. Jews have to step out to the front and say, I'm Jewish, I'm proud, and I'm not afraid to say it. Until Jews are willing to do that, we have a major problem. Until Jews are willing to do that, Jews are going to continue to be attacked. Jewish institutions are going to continue to be attacked. And we're going to have We're going to have major, major issues. We can't back up. We can't go back in history. We can only go forward. We can't change the past, but we can shape the future. And the only way to shape the future for the Jewish people is to understand that we don't negotiate with terrorists. We kill terrorists. That we don't sit back and allow missiles to land on our civilian heads, as the Israeli government did for 26 years. The first missile that lands, we blow up their country. Don't attack Israel. It's like the kid being bullied at school. You're bullied until you beat up the bully, and then suddenly they don't bully you anymore. Israel has to show strength. The Jewish people have to show strength. We have to not be afraid of fighting. We have to not be afraid of teaching our children self-defense. We have to not be afraid of saying, I'm a Jew, I'm a proud Jew, and I'm never going to step back and say I'm not. I am not going to take my mezuzah off my door. I am not going to not buy at the kosher restaurant or attend a kosher restaurant. I am not going to accept swastikas on the walls, and I'm not going to accept bullets in the holes of our schools. Like every other community in the world, we have to stand up and we have to be heard. We can't hide in our houses. Get out in the streets, start protesting. Start showing the world that we care, because when you care about yourself, then suddenly everybody cares about you too. Just take a look at Black Lives Matter. Look how that worked. Sure, they got ridiculed and they were a scam. But at the end of the day, they did cause some reform. They did cause some people to think twice about police brutality. They did cause a lot of change. Now, was it a good change or bad change? Look, that's a decision, that's a discussion for another show. But the fact is that the activism and the support of the community and the unity that the black people showed after the death of George Floyd, rightly or wrongly, and we could discuss that some other show. But the unity and community that they showed after that changed the world. It's time for Jews to do that too. Now, after October 7th, I was positive that something was going to change, that the Jewish community was somehow going to be unified, that somehow we were going to be able to fight back. I was dismayed and I was upset when that all fell apart. But it's never too late. It's never too late to get up and say enough is enough. To say never again is not just a slogan. Holocaust Memorial Day is this week. We have to say never again was not just a slogan. It wasn't just empty words. We understand. We know where this leads. And we will not allow this to go there again. This is what we have to say, and we have to mean it. Because sitting in a synagogue and commemorating the Holocaust, or standing in a Holocaust museum and commemorating the Holocaust, or standing in a cemetery and commemorating the Holocaust is great. We have to remember our martyrs. It's great. It's wonderful. But what are you going to do about the lessons of the Holocaust? How do you incorporate the lessons into the rest of your life? How do you incorporate the lessons into your children and grandchildren's lives to ensure that a Holocaust never happens again? How do you do that? And the only way to do that is to instill a sense of Jewish pride, is to teach children and teach the next generation, the generation after that, that Jewish blood is not cheap and whoever takes it will pay the price. That attacks on Jews are unacceptable and whoever attacks a Jew will pay the price. And any politician that agrees with the enemy, that sides with the enemy, that stands with the enemy, that tries to placate you with the words of the enemy, are thrown out of office. Jews have to say, we're not going to take it anymore. And until that happens, Jews are in grave danger. So I hope it happens really soon. Let Holocaust Remembrance Day, Yom HaShoah, let it encourage you to step forward and say never again and actually mean it. I'm Howie Silberger. This is Political Hitman on Israel News Talk Radio. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you again next week.